In May 1995, Netscape hired a new engineer named Brendan Ike. He was told he'd get to build a Lisp dialect for the browser. Instead, his manager handed him a different assignment with a different deadline: ship a scripting language in 10 days. What he delivered would become, 3 decades later, the most widely used programming language on Earth, and we've been living with the consequences ever since. To understand the deadline, you have to understand 1995. The browser war between Netscape Navigator and Microsoft Internet Explorer was just starting. Netscape needed a way to make web pages interactive. They had already cut a deal with Sun Microsystems to embed a real heavyweight language in the browser, Java. But Sun's Java was for big applications. Netscape wanted something lightweight that page designers could drop directly into HTML. Ike's brief was contradictory. The language should be powerful enough for serious developers, but easy enough for absolute beginners. It should look like Java. That was a marketing requirement, not a technical one, but behave nothing like it underneath. And it had to ship in the next Navigator beta, hence the 10 days. What Ike actually built in those 10 days was a prototype, not the final language, but its DNA was already set. He took the C-style syntax from Java, curly braces, semicolons, the if and parentheses look that familiar developers expected. He took first-class functions from Scheme. A function is a value. You can pass it around, return it, store it. And he took prototype-based inheritance from Self. No classes, just objects inheriting from other objects. Tying 3 radically different language families together inside a 10-day deadline meant edges that never got smoothed. The infamous type coercion of double equals, the weird casting where empty array equals not empty array evaluates to true. Variable hoisting, the this keywords rebinding rules that you still can't reason about without checking. None of these were design choices anyone defended. They were the seams left over from welding 3 languages together at speed. The thing Ike built was first called Mocha, then renamed LiveScript when it shipped in the Navigator 2.0 beta in September 1995. Then renamed one last time, JavaScript, in a joint press release between Netscape and Sun Microsystems in December 1995. That last rename was pure marketing. Java was the hottest language on Earth at the time. Sun owned the Java trademark. The deal: Sun let Netscape use the JavaScript name in exchange for cross-promoting Java in the browser. The press release positioned them as siblings: Java for big enterprise apps, JavaScript for small scripts. They were nothing of the sort. They shared a curly brace and a marketing budget. That single naming decision is why, 3 decades later, beginners still Google, is JavaScript the same as Java? Microsoft saw what was happening and reverse-engineered the language. They shipped their version in Internet Explorer 3 in August 1996 under the name JScript because they did not have a deal with Sun. For the next several years, web developers had to ship code that worked in 2 slightly different, incompatible runtimes. The split was so painful that the only way out was standardization. In November 1996, Netscape submitted the language to ECMA International. In June 1997, the standard was published as ECMA 262 First Edition. They could not call it JavaScript. Sun still owned the trademark, so they called it ECMAScript. To this day, when someone says ES 2015, they mean ECMAScript 2015, the official spec, even though the language everyone speaks of is still called JavaScript. For the next decade, JavaScript was treated as a toy language. The browser was a place you wrote a little jQuery to validate a form. Real engineering happened on the server. Ike himself has said the language was rushed and full of mistakes. Then, in 2008, Google shipped Chrome, and with it V8, a JavaScript engine that compiled directly to machine code, treating JavaScript as a serious target for the first time. Suddenly, JavaScript was fast. And in May 2009, an engineer named Dahl took V8, wrapped it with an event loop and a non-blocking input-output library, and released Node.js. JavaScript was no longer trapped in the browser. After Node, everything compounded. NPM, the package manager, launched the same year, and within a decade became the largest software registry on Earth, with over 3 million packages. In 2012, Microsoft released TypeScript, a strict superset that added the static type system JavaScript arguably should have had from day one. In 2015, ECMAScript 6 finally landed, adding classes, modules, arrow functions, promises. 16 years after the previous major revision. Today, JavaScript runs on browsers, on servers via Node and Dino and Bun, on phones via React Native, on edge networks via Cloudflare Workers, on desktops via Electron, in your editor, in your terminal, and increasingly inside everything else. And it all extends from a 10-day prototype written by one engineer in May 1995, under a deadline no one would now consider sane. There is a lesson buried in this. The most consequential languages are not always the most carefully designed ones. They are the ones that ship at exactly the right moment, with exactly enough power to solve the problem in front of them, and then keep getting iterated on while the world quietly settles on top of them. JavaScript should not have won. By every conventional metric of language design, consistency, type safety, scope rules, runtime behavior, it should have been replaced years ago. But you cannot replace a language that ships with the browser. And by the time anyone tried, the world had already built too much on top of it. That's it. If you learned something new, hit like and subscribe. See you next time.